Hello everyone, welcome to the Ginger Snaps here. We're discussing horror movies for you guys in a very blunt way. I'm your host, Steven Harrold, and happy Friday the 13th for all you horror fans out there. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my review for Friday the 13th Part 3, which was released in 1982. Now, to continue on with the Friday the 13th franchise reviews that I'm going to be doing, I release every Friday the 13th movie on Friday the 13th. So, of course, it's only fitting that we talk about the third film. Now, I know you guys realize I have talked about the third film way back in the day, but because of my channel growing and all that kind of fun stuff, I actually wanted to give a fair shake when it comes to these movies, especially when it came to Friday the 13th. And rewatching Friday the 13th Part 3, I may have some differences than I did back then. So anyways, guys, let's get on to the review for Friday the 13th Part 3. With the story of this film, Friday the 13th Part 3 takes place literally right after Part 2. It just picks up right after Part 2. Jason Voorhees walking around, he's causing havoc, he goes back to Camp Crystal Lake, so whatever you think, and a new batch of victims come to party for the weekend, and Jason just happens to foil all the fun plans. Now, of course, Friday the 13th is very synonymous for having cut and paste type of premises, and Friday the 13th Part 3 just happened to be very synonymous with a lot of horror fans, because this is the film that history is made, and that history ended up carrying on into the rest of the franchise. So for the story of this film, it's the same as Part 1, Part 2, and then what we will come to learn, many others after this. But Friday the 13th Part 3 did something a little bit different. As we all know, this was the third film in the franchise, and it was given the 3D gimmick. So for the movie at its time, having that 3D gimmick, I mean, like fans basically had to go into the theater and, put on their 3D glasses and watch the film. And I guess a lot of people back in 1982 really loved this film in 3D. But sadly, the 3D doesn't hold up today. But other than that, the story is, bare basic. It's very simple, and it's just like the second film, and it made a lot of money. So if it ain't broke, why bother fixing it? For the characters of this movie, of course, we are given Chris Higgins, who is our final girl in this movie. I mean, she is dealing with some sort of traumatic event that happened 2 years prior, and basically comes back to just, get back to normal, right? With a bunch of friends and a boyfriend that's actually kind of waiting for her at this place. Now, when it comes to the characters, there are some memorable ones. I mean, we have the biker gang who, they're actually memorable in their own right. We have the guy who does the handstand with the girlfriend of his that's pregnant. And then, of course, we got Shelly, which I don't understand why a lot of people even think that Shelly is one of the most annoyingest characters or one of the worst characters in the franchise. I don't mind him. I mean, the guy's a prankster, but he's very insecure about himself because he's fat, he's not that attractive. And he's on a date with some really attractive chick. So when it comes to all the characters in this movie, they are very lovable, except for two. And the two that are very unlovable are the stoners in this movie. I mean, they're together, sure, yeah. But the fact that there's simple tropes of just them being stoners, it's like, sometimes the other characters are a little bit there and you can be invested with them. But then when they show up, it's like, oh yeah, the stoners are fucking here. And also, Chris Higgins' boyfriend there, he's not that great at all either. I mean, like, he's there obviously to get fucking laid, obviously, whatever. But he tries to sympathize with her about her traumatic event, and it just, dude, you just want to get your dick wet. It's just that fucking simple. But nonetheless, the characters are, they're alright. Now it comes to our antagonist, which is, of course, Jason Voorhees in this film. Now, Jason Voorhees has gone through a little bit of an evolution in between 2 and 3. I mean, in the second film, he was wearing a potato sack over his head. He had overalls, a denim sweater or shirt, And in this movie, he ditches that outfit and goes for a green button-up shirt, some track pants, or not really track pants, khakis, I guess you could say. And the thing about him, too, is that he had long hair in the second film, and now in this one he is shaved bald. He's looked a little bit more bulkier now. But this movie is not really known so much about that look of him. Of course, it's what is established, but of course, the filmmakers, they're still finding out this character. I mean, like, the original actor who did the second film didn't want them going back to the burlap sack, according to the Crystal Lake Memories book and the documentary itself. Now, they had to come up with something. So, in that time span, they kept having Jason just, hiding in the shadows, hiding in the barn. We don't get to see his face until finally he is given something that ends up really taking off, and that is Shelley's hockey mask. This is the look of Jason Voorhees. In this film, he finally dons the hockey mask, and that becomes a very popular thing throughout the rest of the franchise. Now, Jason's look with the hockey mask is really nice. It's that emphasis of like, okay, an icon is now born. So you had to just get that look right. It's just a shame it took the third fucking film to do that. When it comes to the kills and the gore in this fucking movie, of course it's Friday the 13th. They always like to have fun when it comes to killing camp counselors or any type of teens whatsoever. And this movie didn't disappoint in that aspect. I mean, especially with the 3D gimmick. I mean, they did a lot with that. I mean, like, when we finally see Jason for the first time with the hockey mask, he shoots that fucking crossbow right at the girl's fucking eye. And, 3D, right? And then, of course, we have multiple other kills. I mean, the biker gang, the chick gets pinned up in the barn with the pitchfork. The other guy gets stabbed with the pitchfork. And then later on, the head biker, gets his hand cut off and gets chopped up. Then, of course, Chris Higgins' boyfriend gets his fucking head crushed. What else there? Oh, yeah, of course, probably my favorite fucking kill in the whole entire movie is the guy getting the handstand and Jason just comes right in between. Yeah, that's right, Art, the clown. Jason did it first. I mean, he did it with a machete. He did it just one fucking go. But, nonetheless, still one of the best fucking kills of this movie. And when it comes to the gore and the kills, it did not, at all, by a long shot, disappoint. We finally get to the end of the film where Jason has dispatched everybody one by one, and he is going up against Chris Higgins, and she's holding it her own. She's beating him senseless, shoving a fucking bookcase over a banister, and all the books are falling over him. She knocks him out with a fucking piece of wood. She even traps his fucking hands with the goddamn window of the van and just drops on him and everything, and then finally gets that final blow, getting the axe right to the fucking head, which puts him down. And of course we have a dream sequence, because in Friday the 13th we just had to have those, right? I mean, like, remember when Friday the 13th had dream sequences every time it was at the end of the movie? God fucking damn. Well, Jason's chasing after her, and then she's, rowing her boat away, and then Pamela Voorhees comes out of the lake. Head fully attached and all. It's one of those endings. But, of course, they did make it a possibility that Jason did survive his axe blow to the head. This movie, Jason goes through a little bit of punishment. I mean, he gets stabbed in the kneecap, gets stabbed in the hand, and, of course, gets beaten up by Chris Higgins, right? And then the axe blow to the head. At the end of the movie, basically, you are left believing that Jason is dead, but at the same time, if you were accustomed, like me, being born in 1992, knowing that there was many more after this film, it was basically very simply obvious that even at that time, they did not kill Jason. They're waiting for another sequel. Of course, when it does come to this movie, there are some glaring problems. I mean, the 3D gimmick does not hold up today. Some of the kills, are just a little bit outlandish. I mean, like, you gotta think of it from this perspective. Even though it's my favorite kill, where he gets chopped right down the middle. The fact that his girlfriend lays in the hammock and blood doesn't even drip at all, and that body's been up there for a while, and then dramatically the blood drips. It's like, dude, that guy is like, he's cut in half. How come he's not just dousing that whole entire fucking hammock with blood and she didn't just walk in and see it? And how come there was no blood on the floor anymore? Like, oh, okay, Jason, you're a Houdini, I guess. But if there's any scene that really just gets on my nerves, it's definitely that whole backstory monologue that Chris gives out, where we're seeing glimpses of the past, of what happened to her, where it's implied that Jason raped her. And it's like, that's a fucking weird characteristic to even think about. Jason raping somebody? That's fucking weird. There's just a lot of glaring things about this movie. Like, when it comes to the Friday the 13th franchise, there are some downfalls. There's some nitpicks here and there. But nonetheless, it still doesn't mean that, you know, this film sucks or whatever. It basically means this movie has its flaws and some continuity errors, especially with Jason's look, but still a good watch. Of course, Part 3 is beloved by a lot of people, but a lot of people do accept those little flaws that are in the film. Of course, the 3D gimmick doesn't quite work that well, but I mean, I still watched it in 3D and just to see if it kind of got that look. This whole thing just doesn't hold up today. I feel like Friday the 13th Part 3 should just be re-released in theaters on a big screen with the modern technology that we have with 3D now. It'd probably look a lot better. But even going back to even like all the things that's one of my personal gripes is the constant amount of things being jotted in front of a camera constantly. It's like, you know, hey, we're doing a 3D movie. Make sure you put that right in front of the camera so that, you know, everyone knows it's 3D to sell the gimmick, right? And it's fucking a little bit out there. But nonetheless, an icon was born with his iconic look with the hockey mask. Chris Higgins, you know, the characters being okay and, you know, not too bad. Chris Higgins being a good final girl. I've seen some people remember her as a good one, some people not so much. But when it comes to a continuation, this movie kind of does feel like it's got that continuation from the second one, but the continuity just makes no fucking sense, especially with Jason's look. But nonetheless, Part 3 is still beloved by a lot of fans, especially with the Friday the 13th franchise. And for me, it was one of the movies that I do like to tend to rewatch. And Friday the 13th Part 3 especially is a rewatchable film. Anyways, guys, for my rating, I'm going to give Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D a 4.5 out of 10. So tell me, guys, what did you think of Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D? Let me know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, make sure you give it the thumbs up and subscribe for more content. And don't forget to hit that bell notification so you get notified about all the other videos coming out on this channel. Especially when it comes to Friday the 13th. Now, of course, like I said, Friday the 13th movie reviews will be only coming out every Friday the 13th. So, it just keeps that longevity. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. This has been Steven Harrold from the Ginger Snaps here. I will talk to you guys later. And remember to stay spooky. And once again, happy Friday the 13th. God, these fucking hurt my eyes. Oh, I don't know how people fucking watch 3D movies with that shit.